Most people aren't poor because they lack money. They're poor because they don't understand what money actually is. You think money is just a payment tool, something to spend, save, or invest. Wrong. R.W. Jones puts it bluntly. Money is power, and if you don't understand it, you become a slave to those who do. Look around. How many people work their entire lives and don't dare take a single day off? How many stay in miserable marriages because they're afraid they won't have enough money? How many bury themselves in jobs they hate just to pay for a life they never truly chose? That's not living. That's being controlled. And the cruel irony? They think they're managing money, when in reality, money is managing them. This society runs on a brutal rule nobody talks about. Whoever controls the money controls everyone else's life. Governments use money to manage you. Companies use money to force compliance. The rich use money to buy time, freedom, and influence. And you? You use money to pay bills and debts. R.W. Jones's Money is Power doesn't teach you how to save a few spare dollars. It teaches you how to stop being a pawn, so you're no longer pushed around like a blind player in a game of power. And if you're brave enough to face the truth most people avoid, you'll finally understand money and how to control it. Part 1. Money is the measuring unit of human power. R.W. Jones opens with a simple but brutal observation. Nothing on earth measures a person's power, influence, and position more accurately than money. Not education, not morality, not reputation. Only money. Because it's the one thing directly tied to your ability to make your will happen. The more money a person has, the more choices they have. The less money a person has, the less voice they have in their own life. Jones tells the story of a childhood friend, a man who was intelligent, kind, and decent. He always believed that hard work is enough, that karma is real, that money doesn't define a person. And yet, because he had no money, he couldn't leave a toxic job, couldn't fight for custody of his own child, and couldn't say no to a life he never chose. It's not a rare story. In America, you see it every day, everywhere. You see the 40-year-old woman standing in line at Walmart at 11 p.m., working 2 jobs, not because she wants to be rich, but because having no money means she's not allowed to be tired, not allowed to get sick, not allowed to rest. You see people in big cities like New York or Los Angeles, ambitious, talented, trapped in a loop, working 70 hours a week just to pay rent, pay credit cards, pay for a life that leaves them no time to actually live. And you see American teenagers entering adulthood already carrying tens of thousands of dollars in student loans, an invisible shackle tightening every day, forcing them to accept whatever conditions the market and employers impose. Jones says, money is not the ultimate goal. It's the measurement of how freely you can decide your own life. A person with money can walk away from toxicity. A person without money can only endure it. A person with money can buy time to learn, recover, or start over. A person without money has had their time bought by the world. A person with money can say, I want. A person without money can only say, I must. You can see this most clearly in the American healthcare system, where the poor have to negotiate with their pain. Someone with good insurance can choose the best doctors. Someone without money waits months just for a follow-up appointment. The right to be healthy, something that should be basic, ultimately comes down to one variable: money. Jones insists, money measures your ability to act. Money measures the width of your freedom. Money measures the weight you carry at life's negotiation table. But most people never realize this. They see money as a way to buy things. Jones says that's the perspective of someone at the bottom. People who understand power see money as the ability to shape their environment. The wealthiest people in America don't buy beautiful houses just to live in them. They buy peace. They don't buy watches and cars to show off. They buy time they don't have to waste waiting. They don't pay for elite education for their children for status. They buy a new rung on the ladder of the future. When you understand that money is power, you begin to see every choice differently. You understand why Jeff Bezos says, "Money gives me the most valuable thing, the freedom to not do what I don't want to do." You understand why many Americans live simply but keep massive amounts of cash, not because they need it, but because they want the power to refuse. And you understand why the poor struggle to rise no matter how hard they work. They are playing a power game without knowing the rules. Jones ends this chapter with a line that stops readers in their tracks. When you're poor, you don't just lack money, you lack a voice in your own life. And the book begins with that harsh truth, because only when you understand what money truly is, can you learn to use it as a tool instead of a chain.
Part 2. Money creates behavior. R.W. Jones says we often get it backwards. People don't simply act and then earn money. The truth is much harsher, and he calls this the inverted principle of financial behavior. Money isn't just the result of behavior. Money creates behavior. A person with money behaves completely differently from someone without it, not because they're better, but because their psychological ecosystem is different. Take a simple, very American example. When you have $10,000 in your bank account, you make different decisions than when you have $12 left before payday. When you have money, you choose the better option. When you don't have money, you choose the cheapest. When you have money, you can say no. When you don't have money, you have to say yes. When you have money, you think about the future. When you don't have money, you can only think about today. From there, the behaviors you create, the choices you make, the personality traits you form over time, all of it is shaped by whatever sits in your wallet. Jones describes this as a psychological spiral. Poverty creates pressure. Pressure creates a need for quick solutions. Quick solutions create bad decisions. Bad decisions cost money. And losing money makes you even poorer. This is why a poor American often buys a car at 18% interest instead of 4%, chooses fast food because it's cheaper than cooking, pays bills late and gets fined, uses credit cards to put out fires, panics over an unexpected $300 expense, avoids opening bills, and ultimately lives in constant survival mode. It's not because they're less intelligent. It's because money, or the lack of it, is controlling their nervous system. Jones argues, money shapes behavior the way gravity shapes orbit. You cannot behave like a wealthy person when your mind is fighting the fear of running out. He cites a Harvard study. Simply prompting low-income individuals to think about money for 5 minutes drops their measured IQ by an average of 13 points, the equivalent of a full night without sleep, because their brain switches to survival mode, leaving no energy for long-term thinking. You see this clearly in the U.S. during tax season. Someone financially stable sees taxes as a required task. Someone poor sees taxes as a threat. Same responsibility, completely different behavior, because the financial base is different. Jones says, financial behavior is not a personality trait. It's a product of the ecosystem you live in. Someone with money becomes calmer, more rational, less reactive because they have room for mistakes. They can be wrong, and life won't immediately punch them in the face. But the poor? One small mistake can cost them an entire month. You're late one day, $35 fee. You forget one bill, electricity cut. Your car breaks down, there goes a week's pay. You get sick, your savings evaporate. Pressure creates behavior, and bad behavior increases pressure. That's why Jones emphasizes, to change financial behavior, you must first break the psychology of scarcity. You can't teach long-term investing to someone who's desperate. You can't teach wealth mindset to someone who's missing $200 to get through the week. You must build a buffer first, a small margin of safety that makes them feel, I won't die if I make a mistake this time. Only then will behavior naturally change. Jones ends with a line powerful enough to make anyone pause for 3 seconds. Good behavior doesn't create money. Money creates good behavior.
Part 3. The wealth gap isn't about money, it's about mindset. R.W. Jones says most Americans believe the wealth gap begins with money. But in reality, he argues money's only the surface. The real gap is created by mindset, and that mindset is planted in us through the smallest experiences. Jones tells the story of 2 children living on 2 different streets in the same city. One is taught, if you want something, find a way to create it. The other is taught, if you want something, wait until payday. One grows up asking, how do I increase my value? The other grows up asking, how do I make it through this month? Neither child chose their starting point, but those 2 mindsets create 2 completely different life paths long before money ever shows up. Jones emphasizes the poor aren't poor because they lack money. They're poor because they were only taught how to survive. You see this most clearly in America, where opportunities are enormous, but the wealth gap keeps widening. When someone with a wealth mindset receives an extra $500, they think, how do I invest this? What skill can I expand? How do I make this grow? But when someone with a scarcity mindset receives $500, they think, I worked hard this month. I deserve something. I'm going to treat myself this weekend. Those things I've been wanting, now I can finally buy them. And that's why winning the lottery in America often becomes a curse. 70% of lottery winners go broke within 5 years because they didn't become wealthy, they were simply given money poured into a poor mindset. Jones writes, money doesn't change people. It magnifies who they already are. Someone without self-control spends even more when they get money. Someone afraid of risk lets cash sit and rot under inflation. Someone emotionally driven spends to feel better. Someone who procrastinates enjoys now, deals with the consequences later. Someone with a wealth mindset treats money as a tool, not an identity. He paints a sharp picture. The rich use money like a shovel to dig deeper into the future. The poor use money like a fire extinguisher to put out whatever is burning today. And that mindset, not the bank balance, creates the gap. In America, you see this in the smallest places. People with a wealth mindset read the contract before signing. Those with a scarcity mindset sign first and read later when trouble appears. People with a wealth mindset see debt as a cost. Those with a poor mindset see debt as a life raft. People with a wealth mindset treat time as an asset. Those with a scarcity mindset treat time as something to be traded for money. People with a wealth mindset use money to buy freedom. Those with a scarcity mindset use money to buy emotional relief. Jones insists the biggest wealth gap in America isn't the income gap, it's the mindset gap. One side asks, what will this money do for me in 10 years? The other asks, how do I survive until Friday? And that mindset repeats itself day after day. It compounds, it accumulates, and it quietly but brutally changes the trajectory of a life. That's why Jones says the rich don't think differently because they're rich because they think
differently.
Part 4. The power of money comes from speed and leverage. R.W. Jones writes, "Money isn't powerful because there's a lot of it. Money is powerful because it moves faster than you do. A single dollar sitting still is harmless, but a dollar in motion, flowing into the right opportunity, the right system, at the right moment, becomes the force that can reshape someone's entire life." And that's the part most Americans are never taught. 1. Speed. The silent advantage the poor don't even know they're losing. Most Americans talk about money in a very static way. How much is my paycheck this month? How much can I save after bills and taxes? But the wealthy don't see money as a number. They see it as a stream. Where is the cash flowing? How fast does it return? How much value does each cycle create? Jones calls this velocity power. Example: one person takes $1,000 to Costco, Target, or Best Buy and buys stuff. The value ends that very day. Another person uses $1,000 for ads to sell products on Amazon, Etsy, eBay, or TikTok Shop, and that $1,000 may return as $1,300 or $1,500 within 1 to 2 weeks. Then it spins again, and again, and again. The difference isn't who has more money. The difference is who makes their money move faster. Speed creates the gap. 2. Leverage. When money works without you. Jones writes a razor-sharp line. The poor use muscle, the middle class use time, the rich use leverage. Leverage is what makes 1 hour of your effort produce 10, 100, or even 1,000 hours worth of value. There are 4 kinds of leverage Americans see every day, yet most don't realize they're standing right in front of wealth-creating machines. 1. Capital leverage. Not just using your money, using other people's money. Banks, investors, friends, even credit cards all turn your $1 into the power of $10. 2. Labor leverage. You don't work. Others work for you. Teams, freelancers, employees, operating systems, each one is a replica of you producing value even when you're not there. 3. Software leverage. You build once, the system works forever. Automation, websites, chatbots, sales funnels, apps, online courses, YouTube channels, machines that run 24/7 and never ask for a raise. 4. Reputation leverage. You don't persuade, you simply speak. Your name, your credibility, your content become engines that move the market on your behalf. Look across America and this becomes obvious. Jeff Bezos uses software leverage. Amazon runs 24/7 even while he sleeps. Elon Musk uses reputation leverage. One tweet can shake the crypto markets. McDonald's uses labor leverage. Tens of thousands of franchises operate for them. Wall Street uses capital leverage. Returns multiply exponentially. Meanwhile, the average person works 1 hour, gets paid for 1 hour. Stops working, income stops. Money sits still, life sits still. Jones concludes, without leverage, you can't get rich. You simply move slower than inflation. And 3, speed plus leverage equals absolute power. Jones calls this combination the power curve, the curve only the top 1% ever get onto. Speed without leverage, you do okay but never break through. Leverage without speed, you stay limited. Only when both combine does money become a force multiplier. Imagine 2 Americans, each with $5,000. Person A spends the money on a discounted 75-inch TV, loses 30% of its value the moment they leave the store. Person B uses $3,000 in personal savings plus $2,000 borrowed from a relative to buy an automated product website. It runs 24/7, generating $300 to $500 a month. After 12 months, Person A lost money. Person B has $8,000 to $10,000 debt-free plus passive income. That's speed. That's leverage. That's the power of money. And that's why, in the same America, some people seem to cheat the game with unbelievable speed while others remain stuck in place. Jones sums it up in one line. It doesn't matter how much you earn. What matters is how fast your money moves
and how powerfully it's amplified. That is the true nature of money's power.
Part 5. To understand money is to understand society. R.W. Jones wrote a line that makes many people uncomfortable, but the more you think about it, the more true it becomes. Money isn't just economics. Money is the power map of society. If you want to understand people, look at how they spend. If you want to understand society, look at where the money flows. If you want to understand the future, follow where the money is moving, not what people are saying. 1. Money exposes people's true motives. Jones says, words show thoughts, money shows priorities. Americans love to talk about freedom, dreams, and values, but look at where they pour their money. Black Friday, fighting over discounted TVs. Subscriptions, paying $200 a month for things they don't even use. Meanwhile, the ones who are truly wealthy rarely show off, yet their money is quietly buying rental real estate, investing in companies that create real value, acquiring back-end businesses, laundromats, car washes, storage units, and maintaining high-quality networks. Money is an X-ray machine for the soul. Two people can speak the same words, but their money will never move the same way. 2. To understand society, follow the flow of money. Jones writes, society is a marketplace of power. You may dislike advertising, influencers, big tech, politics, Wall Street, but money is pouring into those places at insane speed. And wherever money floods into, the rules will inevitably change in favor of that place. This is the unbreakable rule of every society. Where money concentrates, power is born. Agricultural age, landowners held power. Industrial age, factory owners held power. Today, those who control data, attention, and capital hold power. Want to understand modern America? Look at the 3 strongest money streams: technology, finance, and politics and media. These 3 weave together to form the power triangle of the 21st century. 4. The poor see money as an object. The rich see it as a relationship. This is Jones's core philosophy. Money isn't the paper. Money is the network around the paper. The poor think, how much is in my bank account? What can I earn from this job? The rich think, who is inside my financial ecosystem? How can I connect capital, ideas, and people together? Money doesn't move by itself, it moves through people. Those with strong networks, money returns quickly. Those who are isolated, money leaves and never comes back. 5. Money defines social class, not the other way around. Jones writes, class isn't a label, it's a cash flow pattern. America truly has only 3 classes: working class, sell time and labor, linear income, own liabilities. Middle class, sell skills, stable income, buy houses, cars, insurance, trapped in good debt. Power class, buy cash flow assets, use leverage, create jobs, use money as a system, not a goal. Here's the painful truth. The middle class thinks they're closest to the power class, but they're actually closer to the working class. The difference lies in where their money starts and where it ends. If you understand the nature of money, you understand how the world works. Jones ends the chapter with a razor-sharp line. If you understand money, you understand society. If you control money, you control society. Money is the radar of trends, the compass of power, the math of the human mind, the real language of society. When you understand money, you begin to see what others miss. Who's pretending? Who's in control? Which industries are rising? Which ones are dying? What's coming next? And the most important part, you stop being led and start leading your own life.
Part 6. The goal of money isn't accumulation, it's time control. R.W. Jones says a line that sounds simple, yet flips the entire traditional mindset about wealth. Money is not for stacking, Money is for buying time back. Money isn't meant to be piled up. Money is meant to buy back your life. This is the truth many Americans, even those working 60 hours a week with six-figure incomes, still don't understand. They have money, but they don't have time. They own many things, but they don't own their own 24 hours. That's not wealth. That's a luxury-branded prison. 1. Money only has value when it frees your time, not when it grows bigger. Jones explains that the instinct to accumulate is ancient, hoarding food to survive, hoarding weapons for defense, hoarding gold to avoid danger. But in modern society, blind accumulation becomes a chain. You earn more, yet become more trapped inside the machine that earns it. Deadlines, clients, meetings, overtime. Meanwhile, the truly wealthy understand something different. Money isn't the goal. It's a tool to buy hours, to buy choice, to buy back the right to live on your own schedule. They use money to replace the one thing that can't be restored, your time you will never get back. 2. The poor sell time. The middle class spend time. The rich buy time back. This is one of Jones's sharpest insights. The poor exchange life for money. The middle class spend money to escape stress, escape fatigue. The rich use money to eliminate the tasks they hate, focus on what creates value, and gain more time. A very American example. A software engineer in Seattle makes $180,000 a year, but still wakes up at 6 a.m., sits in traffic, works 10-hour days, and attends weekend sprints. He has money, but no time. A storage unit owner in Texas makes $150,000 a year, manages remotely, and works 10 hours a week. Slightly less money, but triple the time. The second person is richer. In Jones's definition, wealth has nothing to do with your bank balance. Wealth is your ability to control your life. 3. Freedom is the purest form of power. Jones writes, "Real power is the freedom to say no." If you cannot say no to a project you dislike, a meeting you don't want, a client you can't stand, then you have no power, no matter how much you earn. Time freedom gives you the ability to say no, and that ability creates real value. Creativity, clarity, better energy, longer-term vision, and decisions not driven by fear or exhaustion. A burned-out person never has vision. A constantly busy person never sees opportunity. A person with no time can never be truly wealthy. 4. Smart people use money to build time-making machines. This is where Jones draws the clearest line between spending and investing. Spending is trading money for things. Investing is trading money for future time. Americans who understand this prioritize rental real estate, equity in businesses, index funds, automated digital products, royalties, systems that run without them. They're not buying expensive things. They're buying cheap time. Meanwhile, those chasing lifestyle, new cars, big houses, designer brands, are burning their future time to buy temporary excitement. Jones calls it short-term pleasure for long-term poverty. 5. If you don't control your time, you don't control your life. Jones ends the chapter with an ice-cold truth. You don't own your life until you own your calendar. It doesn't matter how much you earn. It doesn't matter what job you have. It doesn't matter how many followers, degrees, or toys you own. If you don't control your time, you're still poor, just a more polished version of poor. Only when you own the one thing that cannot be reproduced, your time, does money finally fulfill its highest purpose, to free you from the endless race so you can actually live the life you want.
Part 7. When you understand money, money stops controlling you. R.W. Jones emphasizes a foundational principle. Most people work for money. The wise make money work for them. Most people are controlled by money. They live by paychecks, debt, bills, and interest rates. Money dictates their schedule, their mood, and even their sense of self-worth. But once you understand the nature of money, you reverse the relationship. Money becomes a tool, no longer the master. 1. Money is a tool, not a goal. Jones tells the story of a middle-class family in Chicago earning $6,000 a month. After rent, credit card debt, daily expenses, and miscellaneous costs, there's nothing left to invest. Money controls them. They chase payment deadlines, satisfy short-term needs, and fear tomorrow. Meanwhile, a tech entrepreneur making the same income, but who understands investing, leverage, and velocity, uses each dollar to create new cash flow. This person doesn't worry about the end of the month. They think in terms of long-term strategy. Money no longer controls them. Jones' point is clear. Money only becomes powerful when you know how to control it. 2. Understanding money equals understanding society and opportunity. When you understand how money moves, you start seeing windows of opportunity that most people miss. In America, billions flow into technology, data, and real estate. Those who understand this invest at the right time, in the right industries, and multiply value. Those who don't stay trapped in wages, debt, and consumption. Jones stresses, money exposes the true nature of people and society. When you understand it, you stop being its victim. 3. Controlling money means controlling your mind. Money isn't just material, it's psychological. People who don't understand money let it manipulate them. I need money to be happy, so they chase salaries, bonuses, the debt cycle. I need more, so they overspend, get stressed, lose control. People who understand money use it to gain freedom, invest in time, health, and family, build assets instead of buying disposable status. As Jones writes, the moment you understand money, you stop fearing it, you stop serving it, you start using it. Jones breaks it down clearly. Understanding money lets you control it. Controlling money lets you control your time and energy. Controlling your time and energy lets you control your life. And that's the core truth. When money stops controlling you, you finally start living. Not chasing paychecks, debt, or social pressure, but living by your own design. The book Money is Power by R.W. Jones doesn't just teach you how to earn money. It shows you how to understand money, control it, and turn it into a tool that frees your time, energy, and personal power. If you want to dive deeper into these ideas, grab your copy at the link in the description and start your journey to mastering your financial power today.